The alarm screamed through the command center as Captain Alex Carter rushed to the main screen. The year was 2347, and the defense station orbiting Nexus Prime had seen many alerts before, but never like this. Lieutenant Maya Torres looked up from her console, her face pale. "Sir, we've got massive energy signatures coming from the dark space sector. Ships. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds." Alex felt his stomach drop. "How long until they reach our outer defenses?" 30 minutes, maybe less, Maya said, her fingers flying over the controls. "They're moving faster than anything we've seen." The doors to the command center burst open. Ambassador Krelthar from the Zephyrian delegation hurried in, his blue skin darker with worry. Behind him came General Voxmar, the Krillian military leader, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. "What is this emergency?" Voxmar demanded, his translator crackling. "My fleet reports unknown vessels approaching." Alex pointed to the main screen. "We're about to find out who they are. All stations red alert. I want every ship ready to fight." The first wave hit before anyone could blink. The enemy ships were dark and sleek, unlike anything in the Galactic database. They opened fire without warning. 3 defense platforms exploded in brilliant flashes. The station shook violently. "Return fire," Alex shouted. "All batteries, give them everything we've got." The station's weapons blazed, but the enemy ships seemed to absorb the hits. Their shields were incredible. Maya worked frantically at her station. "Sir, our weapons are only doing minimal damage. Their technology it's beyond anything we've encountered." More ships poured from the dark space. The station's defensive fleet engaged them, but it was like throwing rocks at a mountain. Ships exploded left and right. The command center filled with smoke and sparks. "Emergency Council," Voxmar called out. "We must convene immediately." Within minutes, representatives from all major species gathered in the war room. The Andromedan, collective speaker, buzzed its concern. The Tauri envoy's tentacles writhed nervously. Even the normally calm Etherians showed fear. "This enemy is too powerful," the Andromedan said, its voice like static. "We must evacuate. Preserve our forces for later." Voxmar nodded his massive head. "Agreed. Strategic retreat is our only option. We'll regroup at the secondary line." Ambassador Krelthar stood up. "My government agrees. We should fall back and study their tactics, learn their weaknesses." One by one, each species voted. Evacuate, retreat, regroup, save what we can. The votes were overwhelming. Everyone wanted to run except the humans. Alex Carter stood alone when it was his turn. The room went quiet. Everyone stared at him. Maya Torres stood behind him along with the other human officers. "Earth's position is clear," Alex said, his voice steady despite the explosions rocking the station. "We will not retreat. We will not abandon our posts. We will hold this line." The room erupted in protests. Voxmar's 4 arms waved angrily. "This is suicide. You cannot possibly defeat them alone." "Maybe," Alex replied. "But someone has to stand and fight. Someone has to buy time for your evacuations. Someone has to show them they can't just walk through this galaxy like they own it." The Etherian floated closer. "Captain Carter, your courage is admirable, but it is illogical. You will all die." Maya stepped forward. "Then we die standing, not running." Another human officer, Lieutenant Dan Miller, spoke up. "My grandfather used to say something. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." "We're not doing nothing." The council fell silent. The enemy was getting closer. More explosions shook the station. The shields were failing. Krelthar looked at Alex with something like respect. "You understand you're committing your entire species stationed here to death?" "We understand what we're doing," Alex said, "and we're not asking anyone to stay with us. Take your people and run. We'll hold them here, as long as we can." The council adjourned quickly. Every species began immediate evacuation. Ships launched from the station and planet below. Transport after transport fled the system. The humans watched them go. "All human personnel," Alex announced over the station comm. "Anyone who wants to leave with the evacuations, go now. No judgment, no shame. This isn't your fight if you don't want it to be." Not a single human moved toward the evacuation zones. Instead, they moved to their battle stations. The enemy fleet approached like a dark wave. They seemed to pause as if confused by the humans' refusal to run. Then they surged forward with renewed fury. Alex Carter sat in his command chair, watching the approaching doom on the main screen. Maya took her position beside him. "Think they'll remember us?" she asked. "The galaxy?" Alex smiled grimly. "They'll remember that someone stood their ground. They'll remember that when everyone else ran, humanity said no." The first enemy ships entered weapons range. The station's remaining defenses opened fire. Laser beams crossed the void. Missiles streaked through space. The battle had begun. Lieutenant Dan Miller reported from the weapons station. "We're holding them back, but barely. They're testing our defenses." "Let them test," Alex said. "We've got some surprises of our own." Through the command center's windows, they could see the last evacuation ships jumping to hyperspace. The humans were truly alone now. The enemy fleet spread out, preparing for a full assault. Alex looked around. His command center. Every human face showed determination, not fear. They had chosen this. They had voted to stay when everyone else ran. "All stations," he called out. "Remember why we're here. Remember what we're fighting for. Today, the galaxy is going to learn what humans are made of." The enemy fleet surged forward, and the battle for Nexus Prime began in earnest. Commander Ben Walker watched the evacuation from his position on the bridge of the USS Washington. Alien ships filled the space around Nexus Prime, all heading away from the approaching enemy. His job was to coordinate the massive withdrawal, while his fellow humans prepared to fight. "How many left to go?" he asked his crew. "About 200 civilian transports, sir," his aide replied. "The Zephyrian colony ships are having engine trouble. They need another hour." Ben nodded. An hour. They might not have. Through the forward windows, he could see the dark enemy fleet getting closer. The station's guns were already firing, creating bright flashes in the void. Dr. Lisa Martinez, the station's chief xenobiologist, entered the bridge. She carried a data pad filled with information about the alien species under evacuation. "Commander, I need to speak with you about the civilians." "What about them, Doctor?" "Several species are refusing to leave without some human protection. The Nerixian children are terrified. The Etherian elders say they feel dishonored leaving us behind." Ben sighed. "Tell them we appreciate their concern, but they need to go. Now, we can't protect them if they stay." Lisa looked troubled. "Some of the younger aliens want to fight with us. I've got 50 volunteers from different species waiting in Shuttle Bay 3. "Send them away," Ben said firmly. "This is our choice, not theirs." Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Colonel Jake Sullivan organized the hastiest evacuation in galactic history. Millions of civilians from dozens of worlds needed transport off-world. Human soldiers worked alongside alien civilians, helping them reach the evacuation zones. "Move, move, move," Jake shouted, directing a group of terrified Krillian families toward awaiting transport. "Stay together. Keep the children close." Private Tom Phillips, barely 20 years old, helped an elderly Andromedan female into a hover vehicle. She grabbed his arm with her thin blue fingers. "Why are you doing this, young human? Why stay and die for us?" Tom looked uncomfortable. "Someone has to, ma'am. That's what humans do." The old alien studied his face. "My species will remember this sacrifice." "Just get to safety," Tom said, patting her hand gently. Above them, fighter squadrons launched from the planet's defense bases. Lieutenant Anna Davis led Blue Squadron, 12 human pilots in outdated but reliable fighters. "Blue Squadron, this is lead." Anna's voice crackled over the comm. "We've got incoming hostiles in Sector 7. They're targeting the evacuation. Transports. Copy, lead. Let's keep them busy." The human fighters engaged the enemy scouts. The alien fighters were faster, more advanced, but the human pilots were clever. They used hit-and-run tactics, keeping the enemy focused on them instead of the fleeing civilians. "Blue 4, you've got one on your tail," Anna called out. "I see him, Led, taking evasive action." The dogfight raged while below. The evacuation continued. General Voxmar's command ship lingered longer than the others. The Krillian leader appeared on Ben Walker's screen. "Commander Walker," Voxmar said, his forearms crossed. "My fleet will leave token forces to assist you." "Negative, General. Take your people and go. We've got this." "But surely..." "General, with all respect, your token forces would just be more lives lost. We knew what we were signing up for." "Go." Voxmar's translator crackled with emotion. "The Krillian Empire will honor your sacrifice. We will return with reinforcements as soon as possible. We'll try to keep the welcome mat out for you," Ben replied with a grim smile. Ambassador Krelthar's voice came through on a separate channel. "Commander, the Zephyrian fleet offers combat support. We cannot leave you to fight alone." "Negative. Ambassador, your people need you. Evacuate your civilians, that's an order from Unified Command." Hours passed. The station's defensive perimeter shrank as the enemy pressed their attack. Human engineers worked frantically to keep the shields functioning. Dr. Lisa Martinez found herself reassigned to helping wounded soldiers instead of evacuating aliens. "How bad is it?" she asked Lieutenant Maya Torres, who had come down from the command center for medical treatment. "Bad," Maya admitted, wincing as Lisa treated a cut on her forehead. "But we're making them pay for every meter. Captain Carter says we've destroyed at least 20 of their ships." "At what cost?" "Too high. But not as high as it would be if we ran." In space, Commander Ben Walker coordinated the last stages of evacuation. The enemy was focusing more on the station now, seeing the human defenses as the real threat. "Sir," his aide reported, "last civilian transport just jumped to hyperspace. Everyone's out." Ben nodded. "Good work, everyone. Now comes the hard part." He opened a channel to Captain Carter. "Station Command, this is USS Washington. Evacuation complete. All civilians are away. Requesting permission to withdraw." "Permission denied, Commander," Carter replied. "Join the defensive line. Time to show them what happens when you corner humans." Ben smiled despite the grim situation. "Copy that, station. USS Washington moving to defensive formation." The human fleet, small but determined, formed up around the station. Ships that weren't designed for combat took positions alongside military vessels. Civilian volunteers manned emergency stations. The alien evacuees were gone, but their departure had left something behind. A burning need to prove worthy of the sacrifice. "All ships, this is Captain Carter," came the announcement across all channels. "The galaxy will remember this day. They'll remember that when everyone else ran, humans stood firm. They'll remember that we bought them time with our blood, and they'll remember that we did it by choice." The enemy fleet, seeing all civilians were gone, turned their full attention to the remaining human forces. Dark ships advanced like a tide of death. "Well," Ben said to his crew, "looks like the easy part's over. The real battle was about to begin." The enemy came like a storm. Colonel Jake Sullivan watched from the command bunker on the planet's surface as dark ships filled the sky. With all civilians evacuated, only human military forces remained. The planet's defenses were outdated, but they were all they had. "Ground teams, this is command," Jake spoke into his comm. "Enemy landing craft detected. Looks like they want the planet too." "Copy that, sir," came the replies from various squads scattered across the defensive positions. Private Tom Phillips dug deeper into his foxhole. Next to him, Corporal Beth Johnson checked her rifle for the 10th time. The rest of their squad prepared for what was coming. "You scared, Tom?" Beth asked. "Terrified," Tom admitted. "But I'm more scared of running than staying." The first enemy drop pods hit the ground 3 kilometers from their position. The impact shook the earth. Strange metallic sounds echoed across the battlefield as the enemy deployed. Above them, engineer Sarah Kim worked frantically in the damaged control room of Station Omega 7. The station's weapons systems were failing, but she had an idea. "Lieutenant Davis," Sarah called over the comm. "I'm reading massive interference in the enemy's formation when our old radar arrays are active. Their shields seem to react badly to certain frequencies." Lieutenant Anna Davis, now grounded after her fighter was damaged, looked up from the tactical console. What kind of frequencies? Human radio frequencies, specifically old Earth AM radio bands. It's like their shields weren't designed for our primitive tech. Anna grabbed the comm. All stations, this is Lieutenant Davis. Broadcast AM radio signals. At maximum strength. Aim them at the enemy shields. The response was immediate. Ancient communication systems kept for historical purposes, powered up across human positions. The effect on the enemy was dramatic. Their shields began to flicker and fade. Back on the surface, Jake Sullivan saw the opportunity. All units, the enemy shields are failing. Hit them now. Human weapons fire erupted across the battlefield. The enemy, suddenly vulnerable, took massive casualties. But they kept coming. "Sir," one of his officers reported, "enemy forces are massing for a major assault on our main defense line." "Let them come," Jake replied. "Fall back to secondary positions as planned. Make them work for every meter." The battle raged for hours. Human forces used every trick they could think of. Hidden explosive charges, improvised traps, coordinated retreat patterns that led the enemy into kill zones. Tom Phillips found himself separated from his squad during the retreat. Enemy soldiers advanced through the rubble-strewn streets. He ducked into a destroyed building, trying to find a way back to human lines. Inside, he discovered he wasn't alone. 3 enemy soldiers were setting up some kind of device. Tom had never seen one up close before. They were tall, covered in dark armor with glowing red sensors where eyes should be. Without thinking, Tom opened fire. The first enemy went down. The other 2 turned toward him. Tom dove behind cover as their weapons tore chunks out of the wall above him. He remembered his training. Stay calm. Use your advantages. These aliens were stronger and faster, but humans were smarter. Tom grabbed a piece of metal debris and threw it across the room. As the enemy soldiers fired at the noise, he moved to a new position. When they advanced to investigate, he was ready. His rifle found its mark. 2 down. The 3rd enemy soldier raised its weapon, but Tom was already moving. He rolled to the side and fired 3 quick shots. The alien dropped. "This is Private Phillips," he spoke into his comm, breathing hard. 3 enemy KIA at grid reference 77 Alpha. Captured some kind of device. Looks important. "Copy, Phillips," Jake's voice replied. "Fall back to checkpoint Delta. Well done." Meanwhile, in space, Captain Carter coordinated the defense of the station. With the shield frequency weakness discovered, human ships pressed their advantage. All vessels maintain AM broadcasts. "Focus fire on the enemy command ships," Carter ordered. Lieutenant Maya Torres worked her console beside him. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups in the enemy capital ships. They might be preparing for their main assault. Or they're getting ready to run," Carter said. "They didn't expect us to fight back this effectively." Commander Ben Walker's voice came through. "Station Command, USS Washington here. We're showing multiple enemy ships breaking formation. Repeat, enemy ships are withdrawing from sectors 4 and 5. Could it be true? Were the invaders actually retreating?" On the surface, Sarah Kim made another discovery. "Lieutenant Davis, I'm detecting communication between enemy forces. I think our resistance is confusing them. They expected us to break and run like the others." Anna smiled grimly. "Instead, we're standing and fighting, something they haven't encountered before." The defense of Nexus Prime became a lesson in human stubbornness. Where alien forces would retreat to regroup, humans dug in deeper. Where others would save their forces, humans sacrificed to hold the line. Colonel Sullivan coordinated the ground defense from his mobile command center. "All units, the enemy is testing different sectors. They're looking for weaknesses. Don't give them any." Private Tom Phillips reunited with his squad and handed over the captured device. Their tech specialists examined it quickly. Colonel 1 reported, "This device is some kind of beacon. I think it's been transmitting our defensive positions to their ships." "Can you turn it off?" "Better than that, sir. I can modify it to send false positions." Jake grinned. "Do it. Let's see how they like being on the receiving end of bad intel." Hours turned into a brutal day of fighting. The enemy threw everything they had at the human forces. But humans had something the invaders hadn't counted on: the willingness to die for each other and the determination to make every sacrifice count. As the sun set on Nexus Prime, both sides were exhausted. The enemy had lost far more than they expected. The humans had held ground they shouldn't have been able to keep. "Sir," Maya Torres reported to Captain Carter, "enemy forces are pulling back across all sectors. They're regrouping in deep space." Carter nodded slowly. "They're not used to this. Someone actually standing and fighting. Let them think about it." The first day of humanity's stand was over. They had survived. They had fought. And most importantly, they had shown the galaxy something new. Sometimes running isn't the answer. Sometimes you stand your ground. Admiral Steve Rogers paced the bridge of the USS Defender, watching the enemy fleet regroup in deep space. The first day had proven humans could fight, but now they needed to prove they could win. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we've finished analyzing the captured device. Dr. Kate Black has some interesting news." Dr. Black appeared on the main screen from her lab. "Admiral, this device is more than a beacon. It's a quantum communicator tied directly to their command ship. We can trace it back." "Meaning?" "Meaning we know exactly where their command vessel is hiding. Behind that asteroid field in Sector 9. Steve smiled. "Now we're talking. Get me Captain Carter and Colonel Sullivan on a secure channel." Within minutes, the human leadership conference began. Captain Alex Carter joined from the space station, while Colonel Jake Sullivan connected from the planet's surface. "Gentlemen," Steve began, "we've found their command ship. Time to take this fight to them." "What's the plan?" Jake asked. "We hit them where it hurts," Alex said. "But we do it smart. No frontal assault." Chief Pilot Emma Johnson entered the conversation. She had spent the last day studying enemy fighter patterns. "Admiral, I've noticed something. Their fighters respond to commands from the capital ship with a delay, like they're not used to independent thinking." "Go on," Steve encouraged. "If we can jam their communications with our AM broadcasts, their fighters become sitting ducks. They'll be confused, slow to respond." Lieutenant Dan Miller, head of Special Operations, had been listening quietly. "I've got an idea. While the main fleet keeps them busy, a small team could board their command ship. Humans excel at close combat. Get inside their shields. Do the damage face to face." Steve considered this. It was risky, possibly suicidal. But then again, so was everything they'd done so far. "I like it. Emma, you'll lead the fighter screen. Use those AM jamming techniques. Dan, pick your best people for the boarding team. Alex, Jake, coordinate from your positions and keep them distracted." 3 hours later, the human counter-assault began. Emma Johnson led 60 fighters in a coordinated strike. As they approached, every fighter began broadcasting AM radio at full power. "This is Blue Leader," Emma called. "Jam those frequencies. Let's make some noise." The effect was immediate. Enemy fighters began flying erratically, their formations breaking apart. Some even collided with each other as their coordination fell apart. "All fighters engage at will. Remember your training." The dogfight was unlike anything the enemy had experienced. Human pilots used wild, unpredictable tactics. They didn't follow standard combat patterns. They improvised, adapted, survived. While the space battle raged, Lieutenant Dan Miller led his boarding team through the chaos. 5 volunteers in modified assault armor, equipped with cutting tools and old-fashioned human weapons. "Remember," Dan told his team, "once we're inside, stick together. We don't know what their ship looks like inside, but we know where to hurt them." The boarding pods launched during the thick of the fighter battle. Designed to look like debris, they drifted through the enemy formation until they reached the command ship's hull. "Cutting through now," Dan reported as they breached the outer hull. "So far, so good." Inside the enemy ship, they found themselves in corridors designed for much taller beings. The architecture was strange, with angles that seemed wrong to human eyes. "Move quiet," Dan whispered. "We're looking for their main computer core." They encountered their first enemy patrol 2 corridors in. 6 armored soldiers, weapons raised, but in the confined space, human agility gave them the advantage. Dan's team moved like they were born for this. Quick bursts of gunfire, using cover. Working together, within seconds the enemy patrol was down. This way, Dan pointed down a corridor that seemed to pulse with energy. That's gotta be important. Meanwhile, the space battle continued. Admiral Steve Rogers coordinated the assault from the Defender's bridge. All ships maintain formation. Keep broadcasting those jamming signals. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're getting strange readings from the enemy command ship. Power fluctuations. Good. Dan's team must be doing something right. On the planet's surface, Colonel Jake Sullivan watched the battle through his tactical display. He had an idea. All ground batteries target their remaining capital ships. Full. Spread. Let's give our space forces some breathing room. The planet's surface lit up as massive railguns fired into space. The shots were slow compared to energy weapons, but they were powerful and unexpected. Direct hit on enemy cruiser, his gunner called out. Their shields are down. Keep firing. Make every shot count. Back on the enemy command ship, Dan's team had reached what appeared to be the main computer core. The room was massive, filled with technology they couldn't begin to understand. All right, team, Dan said. We don't need to understand it. We just need to break it. His demolitions expert, Sergeant Lisa Stone, went to work. Give me 2 minutes and this whole system is going down. But they weren't alone anymore. Enemy soldiers poured into the room from multiple entrances. The firefight was intense. Hold them off, Dan shouted, returning fire. Lisa, how much longer? 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds felt like hours. Dan's team fought with everything they had. Each human soldier covered the others, using tactics the enemy couldn't predict. Done, Lisa shouted. Move out, Dan ordered. As they fought their way back to the boarding pod, the entire enemy command ship began to shake. Warning lights flashed. The computer core explosion was causing a chain reaction. Go, 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 Dan urged his team. They barely made it to the pod before launching. As they flew away, the enemy command ship systems began failing one by one. Without their central command, the enemy fleet started to panic. This is Dan Miller, he reported over the comm. Mission complete. Their command ship is crippled. Admiral Steve Rogers saw the immediate effect. Enemy ships began pulling back, their movements confused and uncoordinated. Without their command structure, they were lost. All forces, press the advantage. Show them what happens when humans fight back. The tide had turned. The enemy fleet, once overwhelming and terrifying, now scrambled to escape. Human weapons found their marks again and again. Emma Johnson led her fighters in pursuit. Blue Squadron, stay on them. Don't let them regroup. The battle for Nexus Prime was becoming a victory, not through superior technology or numbers, but through human courage, creativity, and determination. The galaxy was about to learn a new lesson about humanity. The enemy flagship burned in space as President John Miller arrived at Nexus Prime. The battle was over, but the echoes of human victory still rang through the system. Ships from every major species gathered at safe distance, watching the aftermath. Mr. President, Captain Alex Carter greeted him as Miller stepped onto the command station. Welcome to the aftermath. Captain Carter. Miller shook his weathered hand. I understand congratulations are in order. Alex smiled tiredly. Not just mine. Sir, every human here earned this victory. Through the command center windows they could see the wreckage. Enemy ships drifted dead in space. Human vessels, damaged but victorious, moved through the debris field. The station showed battle scars everywhere, but it still stood. Casualties? Miller asked. Too many, Lieutenant Maya Torres replied, consulting her reports. But far fewer than anyone expected. We held them off long enough for our tactics to work. General Rex Stone, the human military supreme commander, entered the room. Mr. President, we're receiving communications from the allied species. They're stunned. Put them through, Miller ordered. The main screen flickered to life. Ambassador Krelthar appeared first, his blue skin even more vibrant than before. President Miller, Captain Carter, we owe you an apology and our deepest gratitude. General Voxmar joined the communication. His forearms spread in what humans had learned was a gesture of respect. Our fleets have returned to find this. How did you achieve such victory? We didn't run, Alex said simply. That's all. But the enemy was so powerful, the Etherian representative asked, its voice filled with wonder. Their technology so advanced? Technology isn't everything, Miller replied. Sometimes heart matters more than hardware. Lieutenant Dan Miller, still in his battered combat armor, entered the command center. His boarding team followed behind him, looking exhausted but proud. Mr. President, Dan saluted. Mission complete. The enemy command structure is destroyed. Well done, Lieutenant. I understand your team's actions were crucial to our victory. Chief Pilot Emma Johnson appeared on another screen, transmitting from her fighter cockpit. Sir, we're tracking the remnants of the enemy fleet. They're retreating beyond our sensor range. Looks like they've had enough. Let them go. Miller decided. They'll spread the word. The galaxy will know what happens when you threaten humanity. Hours later, a formal ceremony took place on the station's main deck. Representatives from every species stood together, watching as President Miller addressed the gathered humans. Today, Miller began, the galaxy learned something new about humanity. They learned that when others retreat, we advance. When others surrender, we resist. When others flee, we stand our ground. The alien delegates murmured among themselves. Some looked ashamed, others admired, all impressed. Ambassador Krelthar stepped forward. President Miller, on behalf of the Zephyrian people, we formally apologize for our hasty withdrawal. We thought strategic retreat was wisdom. We were wrong. No apology needed, Ambassador, Miller replied. You protected your people. That's never wrong. We just protected in a different way. General Voxmar approached next. The Krillian Empire wishes to propose a new galactic defense agreement, with humans in the leadership role. The other species quickly agreed. The Andromedans, the Etherians, even the normally independent Tauri concurred. Humanity had proven itself as galactic defenders. We accept, Miller said, but with one condition. We work together. All species. We learn from each other. Your advanced technology, our human determination. Together we'll be unstoppable. Colonel Jake Sullivan joined them from the planet's surface. Mr. President, ground forces report all enemy positions secured. Civilians can begin returning. Excellent work, Colonel. Dr. Lisa Martinez stepped forward with a datapad. Sir, we've been analyzing captured enemy technology. Combined with our defensive innovations, we can improve the entire galaxy's defense systems. Engineer Sarah Kim added, our AM radio jamming technique, combined with alien shield technology, could create an entirely new defense grid. President Miller looked around at the gathering. Humans and aliens, once divided by fear, now connected by shared experience. The enemy came to divide us, Miller announced to everyone present. Instead, they've united us. They thought fear would make us weak. Instead, it made us strong. Captain Carter stepped beside the president. Sir, there's something else. Our long-range sensors picked up something during the battle. The enemy ships came from beyond the galactic rim. This isn't the last we'll see of them. The room fell silent. The victory celebration paused. Then we prepare, Miller said firmly. All of us. Together. General Rex Stone nodded. I'll begin coordinating joint training exercises immediately. Human tactics combined with alien technology. And research, Dr. Kate Black added. We've learned so much from this battle. We need to share that knowledge. Admiral Steve Rogers spoke up. The galaxy's first line of defense won't be walls or weapons. It'll be cooperation, and the front line will be wherever humans stand. The ceremony continued with honors being distributed. Private Tom Phillips received recognition for his actions on the ground. Emma Johnson for her fighter leadership. Dan Miller for his boarding team's success. But the greatest honor went to all who stayed. Every human who chose to fight when the galaxy chose to flee. As the gathering concluded, Ambassador Krelthar approached Alex Carter privately. Captain, a question. Why did you really stay? Truth now. Alex looked out at the stars. Because someone had to. Because leaving felt wrong. Because that's what humans do. We don't always know why we stand our ground, we just know we have to. The Zephyrian nodded slowly. The galaxy will remember this day. Not as the day humans won a battle, but as the day the galaxy learned what it truly means to fight for something greater than yourself. Months later, as the new joint defensive systems came online and the galaxy's first combined fleet took its place along the rim, historians would record this as the Battle of Nexus Prime. The day humanity taught the galaxy to stand and fight. But those who were there simply called it the day humans did what humans do. When the galaxy fled, humans stood their ground, and the stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter for it.